God, I'm in a weird mood today. Do you guys ever find yourself doing that? You know, you find a song you really love and you're like, I'm just gonna get down to this right here, right now. I don't care who's watching. Guys, this week's video is about the question I get asked more than any other question, which is which DJ deck should I buy if I'm a complete beginner? In this week's video, I'm gonna be answering that question. Let's do it. Okay, so I get asked this question all the time. What DJ decks are the best DJ decks to buy as a beginner? Now, I was thinking about that question, and I was thinking, really, it's what are the best, cheapest DJ decks I could buy? Because, let's face it, if you guys were millionaires, then the best DJ decks are just the best DJ decks. But what you guys are asking me is, I don't want to commit to hundreds and thousands of pounds, so I just want to get the cheapest but best DJ decks. That's what I perceive that question to mean anyway, so that's kind of what I've gone for here. So, I did a bit of research. As you guys know, the DJ decks I have got are DDJ SB2, which cost about £800. I did a review on them the other day. So I was looking for DJ decks under £100, and I couldn't find them anywhere. They don't exist. So the DJ decks I ended up looking at are more around £200, £250. Now, that's still a lot to most people, but to be honest with you, below that, you're not going to be getting very good DJ decks at all. If anything, I would just get, you know, algorithm on your iPad or your phone and just use DJ2 on your phone to get the basics if you can't afford them. But if you guys are prepared to spend £200 to £300, then the DJ decks that I would recommend are these. They're the DDJ SB2, okay? Which I've actually found out are Pioneer's most popular DJ decks. So you kind of know you're making the right decision if you buy these because, as Simon Cowell says, the general public are very rarely wrong. So, let's get into it. My thinking was, so first thing I did was I went to Amazon and I was checking out different prices, and these cost £226 in the UK. Weirdly, the DDJ SB nothing, as in just the SB, were more expensive than the SB2, which is just weird. I'm going to show you, it looks weird. Then in America, these DJ decks are $299. That's my American accent, by the way. And weirdly, the DDJ SB3 are even cheaper. So I don't understand. I have no idea what's going on with pricing with these. The ones I got, though, are the DDJ SB2. If you get the SB, it's going to be a similar kind of product. If you get the SB3, it's going to be a similar kind of product. I will be running you through the differences between these and the SB in a minute, though. Okay, so first things first, I've covered why I would suggest these decks. They are the cheapest and best decks that I would buy. And the other thing I have to point out here, guys, is this is just my opinion. Also, I have to point out I'm a Pioneer fan, so my DJ decks have always been Pioneer, so these are the ones I would buy. After all, I'm answering the question, which DJ decks would I buy if I was a complete beginner? These are them. Because they're Pioneer, they're cheaper, and they run with Serato. The other thing I wanted to point out to you guys was when this arrived, I had a nightmare getting it connected with Serato. I've got the regular Serato. When I plugged it in, they just wouldn't work, and I was looking at tons of forums and stuff trying to work out why these just wouldn't register. It was like Serato would not recognize that the decks had been plugged in, so it would only show one track at the top. So I ended up having to download a program called Serato DJ Lite that work with these. So if you buy these, you may need to get Serato DJ Lite. Okay, that's another little tip for you. Okay, so as you guys know, I'm a massive fan of going right from the basics and teaching everything. However, I'm not actually going to do that in this video. If you're watching this video and you have no idea what any of the knobs or anything on these DJ decks do, I've got another video called Your First 10 Minutes on DJ Decks, which will explain all of this stuff to you. I'll link to the video here, so if you don't know what anything on here does, I'd suggest watching that one first. Now, in this video, I'm just going to run you through the differences between the DDJ SB2 and the originals, the DDJ SB. And then I'm going to run you through, in my opinion, the differences from going from my DJ decks to these DJ decks, little things that I found interesting, which you might find interesting about these DJ decks. So, just to quickly run you through, the main differences between these and the originals, just the SB, is we've now got levels here, so you can see the levels bouncing up and down there. You've also got trim buttons up here. So the trim buttons are basically like a little volume booster. In a nutshell, they're just a volume booster, like a gain booster. So if you had one song playing here that was just naturally quieter than this song, you could use the trim just to bring up the volume of this track here, so it wasn't like mixing one loud track into one quiet track over here. By the way, these are just the differences between these tracks and the previous tracks. Levels, trim button. You've got access to 2 separate decks. So what I mean by that is you've got one track playing here, one track playing here, and 2 faders in the middle, which is all I would ever stick to if I was you. However, if you press this, deck 3, you'll notice that Serato changes and gives you a brand new deck over here. So if I press it, that happens. It essentially gives you 2 other decks. That mixing's very confusing. So I mean, you could have 2 tracks here, click that, and have 2 new tracks there. But then it's very confusing. You have to keep your eye on this constantly so you know which deck you're on. And personally, guys, I would not recommend that. When I'm DJing, I just have one track lined up, another track lined up. I just stick on 2 DJ decks. I never go into the 4. I find it really complicated. And if you're a beginner, I wouldn't suggest it. So that's another feature. And the third feature is it's got this pad trans thing down here, which my DJ decks don't even have this. So I've looked into this, and what it essentially does is adds like a jittery effect over the track you're playing. So watch, I'm going to do it now. If I just go to, and I'm going to put pad trans on, and what you'll find is this makes it a quick jitter, which is like, this is more like da 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 da, and this is more like da da da. Okay, it's going to make more sense when I play it. Okay, this one. This one. So it's weird. They're just as far as I can understand, maybe I've got something wrong, but this pad trans is basically like different jittery effects that you can play over a track. I'm not even that against it. I think it's quite cool. Like with I was playing with it earlier on, so you can go to a build of the song like here. I'm not getting into that again, don't worry. But I'm just showing you, it's quite cool. I'm not against that effect, I think it's quite cool. So that's pad trans. So those are 4 things, the difference about these DJ decks to the SB DJ decks. The levels, which I think is quite handy for you, because you can see if you're going into the red or not. The trim, so you can boost the gain on a track. The additional tracks over there, and the pad trans over here, okay? They're the 4 differences. So like, you know, if you can find some DJ decks, the SB, and they're like £100 cheaper, I'd probably say just go for those. But these are the ones I've got, and you know, I quite like that pad trans thing, and I think levels and the trim thing is relevant, you know. Okay, cool, so now I'm going to actually run you through some of the big differences I noticed coming from my DJ decks to these DJ decks, which may not be relevant to you if you've never had DJ decks before, but I just find them interesting, so I'm going to tell you anyway, okay? Most DJ decks have big silver buttons here for play and cue. Well, these DJ decks don't. They're part of the hotkeys down here, so as you can see, there's play there and there's cue, so obviously play, pause, cue, which means you can get to a certain point of a track, press the cue button, and then it'll play from that point. Okay, which is quite relevant. Again, I actually never use the Q button. I will always go for hot cues over the Q button, because hot cues you can just lock in place. So let me show you, okay? So say I came to this part of the song here, and I was like, oh, I love that bit there. You can click on hot cues here. And then these two hot cues are already used, because you can see they're slightly more red than these two. Click that. It's just there and it's locked in place, and I know if I move to another part of the song, then that hot cue is always going to be there. Whereas the Q button, I find if you move to a different part of the song and accidentally hit the Q button, you've lost that cue and you have to go back and find it manually. I'm a much bigger fan of hot cues than I am the Q button. I've actually got a video on it. If you want to watch it, it's up there, okay? Another interesting thing is I never use this fader here on my DJ decks. Most of you guys who've watched my other videos know that I'm more of a fan of just using the volumes, because I can manually, I've got more control over stuff when I'm mixing. However, on these DJ decks, you can't turn the fader off, it's always there. But there's two fader settings. The one is where you can just have it off and it flashes like this, and all this does is it will move the volume from one side to the other. When you have it on solidly like that, it will kind of filter one track out and filter into another track. So let me get two examples and I'll show you, okay? Okay guys, so I have two tracks, they're lined up, they're on loop, and they're just beat matched. So here's one track, here's the other track. This is them together. Okay, they're beat matched. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these at full volume, and I'm going to show you the two different fader settings you can have this on, okay? So the first one is where it just takes the volume from one side to the other, okay? So I'm going to show you, ready? Move it across. Move it back. Okay. Then the other option is one where it kind of filters one out and filters another one in. What I mean by this, it's like it does a high pass filter, so it does this. Okay? So watch, I'm going to put this button on here so it's flashing, and it kind of filters one up and it filters the other one up and brings them back down. So watch what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's what the two different fader filters do. And to be honest with you, I would still not bother with those if I was you, but I'm just showing you, okay? What you need to do to disable the fader is just have it directly in the middle, which means it'll give equal deck the same amount of volume, and make sure it's on the solid colour. So it's not like, because if you've got it in the middle and you've got it on that filter, both of them will be high passed in the middle. So you want to have the colour on solid and have them in the middle there, okay? Cool. So the next thing is, if you've got one deck playing over here and you want to hear what's playing on the other deck without playing out the speaker, you put your headphones on, plug them into the side here, and then you click the Q button, which will instantly play the song you're playing over here, only in your headphones and not out to the audience there. So that's what those two Q buttons are for there, okay? Another interesting thing about these DJ decks is you can add several effects at the same time, okay? So if you come over to Serato and you click effects, you'll see this section here pop up where you can add 3 different effects, which tally up perfectly with these effects here. Now, what you have to do is select one of these and then you can turn them on. So I'm going to show you, okay? On this one, I've got high pass filter. So if I do this, it's a high pass filter. I can also put a different effect on. So this one here is Flanger. So I press 3 and this is a flanging effect. Okay, ready? But what's interesting about these DJ decks is you can just hit like 2 on at the same time and have 2 on at the same time, and then you add in equal amounts of the 2 effects at the same time. So watch, high pass and flanger. which is interesting. It's quite cool. Like on the DJ decks I've got, you've got 3 different knobs and you can add in equal amounts. So it may be a benefit or a negative, but it's just quite funny that you can have one knob that controls all of the effects that come in. So that's quite cool. Another thing I noticed about these DJ decks as well is that the tempo slider is a lot smaller than on my DJ deck, so you have to be a little bit more careful with trying to get the tempos matched correctly because they're so small, there's less movement, whereas on some of the more expensive decks they're longer, so it's less fiddly trying to get there. Something else which I kind of wanted to point out to you guys as well is that my DJ decks have XLR cable attachments, which means you can plug them straight into much bigger speakers, whereas these DJ decks just have these kind of phono lines here. These are only really good for plugging into smaller speakers, which I think is fine if you're just practicing in your bedroom. You can get phono lines that plug into bigger speakers, but really I think these are made to just plug directly into smaller speakers. The other thing to point out is it doesn't come with this wire, so you guys need to buy this wire here. It's a kind of phono to AUX cable. If you just type into Amazon phono to AUX, you will find that. And all it is you plug these two into this side, white to there, red to there, and then this goes straight into an aux cable or a little speaker, just like that. So another thing you guys probably know is I'm a massive fan of auto loops, just putting a loop on a song so it loops and it gives you more time to do the things you want to do without having to worry that the track's going to end. So if you want to get to the looping section on these DJ decks, there's this button here called auto loop, and press it once, it will enable auto loop, and you'll see the auto loop appear there with like a blue bar over it in Serato. And you can increase the length of this auto loop by clicking any of these. So if you click this, it will be the biggest loop. This is a smaller loop. That's smaller again, and that's smaller again. So smaller, bigger, 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 okay? And it also means if you want to get back to hot cues, you have to click this button here in order to get back to the hot cues there. Okay guys, that pretty much concludes my video. I have to say, I think these decks are really good, and you know I'm telling the truth because I actually bought them myself. If you guys are new to DJing and you don't really know what anything on these DJ decks do and you want to get better at DJing, I have a full training course at beginnerdjlessons.com where I can teach you everything you need to know about DJing, from not knowing any of this stuff up to being able to do your first DJ gig basically. Beat matching, different mixing techniques, everything you'd need to know. Finally, I just want to say, if you enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like, make sure you leave a comment, because when YouTube sees I'm getting likes and comments, I get more views, which is what I want to happen. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more weekly videos. See you guys next week. Ciao!